If you're new here, my name is RuthAnn. My husband Lance was a service-connected, disabled U.S. Navy veteran. He was sick for 25 of the 27 years we were together, and for the last 12 years of his life, I was his full-time caregiver. This podcast is about caregiving in all its forms. My friend Jenna joins me to share her perspective as a stay-at-home mom who homeschooled her 5 children. At first, our lives seemed very different, but we found we actually have a lot in common. So we share what connects us, hoping it helps you find your connections too. We're going to talk about exercise. Lance and I were really active before he received his first diagnosis. We loved hiking and walking, and we would go camping and fishing, and we just did all of those active things. And then he received his first diagnosis and started to slow down a little bit. And then after his second diagnosis, things changed drastically. And exercise was one of those things that helped keep both of us healthy. And it helped us maintain a little bit more normal life. We were able to do a lot more things because we continued to exercise. And it also helped Lance maintain his independence, a lot of his independence, for much longer than had he not been exercising. It also made it easier on me because he was strong enough to do a lot of the things on his own that had I taken on all of that myself, I don't know that I could have handled it, even though I was working out, because it was a lot of work. And exercise really helped both of us with anxiety and depression. We both suffered from that. It was a very stressful life, but being able to exercise made us both feel so good. And I'm so glad that I learned that during those years while I cared for him, because that has carried through as I move forward. I know that I need to remain active. It's hard when you are living a really challenging life and you're so exhausted already. I know the first thing that I would think is I am too tired to exercise. But you know what? It was the exercise that gave me the energy to keep going. And that's something that has stuck with me when I get so tired now, is get up and walk, get up and move, get up and do something, because that is how you're going to be able to keep going. So, and exercise is actually how I met Jenna. Jenna started off as my personal trainer and then became Lance's personal trainer. So I'm really glad to be talking about this with you, Jenna.
Me too. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart and something that I'm very passionate about. And um, I encourage everyone to pursue a more active lifestyle, whatever that looks like, whether that is just being outdoors more or if it's being in the gym, whatever that looks like. I encourage everyone to um, embrace their ability and work toward an increase in ability, whatever that is. And I know when we first brought up this episode and we're talking about, how we would approach the topic of exercise in terms of caregiving, I immediately thought about, someone having a disability, which made me think about, okay, the very point of exercise is increased ability. So when people would come to see me as a trainer, and they would have different goals, it was typically an aesthetic thing. It was always weight loss, or they wanted to be in a smaller size clothing. And I just always had to kind of burst people's bubble and say, well, I don't really care how much you weigh or what size you are, but I really care what you're able to do. And you should care what you're able to do. And I would say, what is it that you can't do right now that you want to be able to do in the future? And that it really kind of caught people off guard, because they were wanting to talk about their weight almost always. And I remember telling people, like, I don't know how much you should weigh. And quite honestly, you don't know how much you should weigh, because that changes depending on your season of life. It changes depending on what your goals are. It changes depending on your age. Like every birthday, you're given a new body. that you have to kind of learn um, all of its unique attributes and, maybe idiosyncrasies. Like, you got all this new stuff. Our bodies change over time. So a weight goal always seemed strange to me, because I don't know how much you should weigh. Your body changes all the time. And I would say, what is it you want to be able to do? Well, I'll have to think about that. I don't know. And so that helped us kind of form really good goals moving forward. Right now I have a really hard time getting down and tying my shoes. Maybe I was helping like an elderly person or something. I have a hard time just laying down to tie my shoes. Well, then let's work on your mobility and your flexibility and see if we can't get you in a space where you can tie your shoes. You don't have to wear your slip-on shoes that you don't like. Whatever it is, like sometimes it's not as obvious. We think, oh, I want to be able to run faster or do more push-ups or something like that. But maybe it's just I want to be able to work in my yard. I can't do that now without so much pain. Well, then let's work on that. So for you, ability was such a huge part of what you guys were doing. And that really helped shape a lot of what we did, as in our training sessions.
Right. And that actually, training with you really changed the way that I looked at that. The whole purpose of my training, all the years that I trained, even before I met you, was so that I could continue to care for Lance. But the way that you explained it really changed the way that I thought about it. And I've carried that with me as I move forward. Of course, I still want to look good. I want to be a certain size, but I'm older now. I'm in my 50s. And the most important thing to me now is being able to get around and being able to do the things that I want to do now that I have the freedom to do them. So that is why I exercise now. And again, like you just said, it's about ability. It's not really about aesthetics so much. That's a bonus, the aesthetics, but my main purpose in doing this is for ability.
And I want to bring up one other point, that I think, I don't know, I hope this makes sense to you. And I hope this is something that makes sense to the people watching this. But I think one of the worst things we can do when we're moving forward with increased activity, exercise, things like that, is to get down on ourselves. We get kind of hard on ourselves, and we'll say, I really am not good at this, or I wish I could do more, or I'm not as strong as I'd like to be. So all those things, kind of negative self-talk. One of the things that has propelled me forward in my fitness journey is being grateful for my body and the things that it has done and the ways that it has served me over the decades. And I didn't always have that. So I want to just share a quick story with you that I think will hit home for you and maybe a lot of our viewers. I was out for, this is, gosh, been probably 12 or 15 years ago. I was out for a run. And for whatever reason, I was feeling kind of slow that day. I just wasn't going as fast. My time wasn't as fast as I wanted it to be. And I think I was really whining a lot in my heart. Like, what is wrong with you? Oh my gosh, you really have lost it, and you're really dragging today. Come on, pick it up. And I was being really, really hard on myself. And I will never forget this for as long as I live, because it impacted me so dramatically, and it really changed my perspective 100%. I'm running down the road, and it's as if it had just appeared, but I noticed that coming toward me was a man in a wheelchair, and someone was pushing him down the sidewalk toward me. And it hit me like a tidal wave that here I am running, and I'm on mile, 4 or 5 or whatever. And I'm complaining about my speed when this man coming toward me is not able to walk. And it was like immediately I just went, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? And I was just flooded with well, of course I was crying because I just felt so awful that I had been so self-centered, right? Instead of being grateful for this body that's carrying me down this sidewalk at a really good pace. Like I wasn't, crawling. I was running. And I was so convicted in that moment. Oh my gosh. Like you're doing fine and your body is doing amazing things for you. And you need to be more grateful for what this body has done for you and continues to do for you. And you need to treat it with the respect and kindness that it deserves because it's trying really hard. Like this body's trying really hard and you're being so mean. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I just need to be grateful. And that really, it from there on, it really changed my perspective on how I viewed my body. And I have since approached exercise 100% with gratitude, gratitude for this thing that is taking such good care of me every single day.
Wow, that's a really powerful image. I love that. I think one of the things that I think of, because I pushed Lance around in a wheelchair for so many years, is when I get out for a walk, um, how grateful I am that I am able to walk. I do think about him actually every time I'm out walking. I think about him, especially when I'm out hiking, because that was something that we both love to do. And he wasn't able to do that from, I don't know, probably his early 30s on. So the last at least 18 years of his life, he wasn't able to hike anymore. And so I do think about that. And I feel grateful that I am able to walk, that I am able to hike. One thing I do want to say is that for anyone listening to this, if you're thinking about starting an exercise program, we're not giving you advice on starting an exercise program. That's something that you need to check with your healthcare provider about. In fact, Lance and I needed to get waivers to train with all of the trainers that we trained with over the years. So
Absolutely. You don't want to jump into any kind of exercise program without kind of some guidance and direction from your doctor, from a personal trainer. One thing I will just say as a blanket statement, do not just walk into a gym or a health facility and try and copy whatever someone else is doing because you have no idea if what they're doing is correct or effective or anything else. So just make sure that you are um, taking advice from professionals, people that you trust, and just go slow. Oh my gosh, don't jump in with both feet. I think one of the worst things, and especially as a caregiver, one of the worst things you can do is just go like too hard at the beginning. You're kind of worthless after that because you'll be so sore, you'll have so much inflammation. Start slowly and just build up that whole mindset of no pain, no gain. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. If you work so hard that you are miserably sore, you're not going to be able to go back and continue building on that for sometimes a week. Like I've seen people, I've personally been out of the gym or unable to exercise for a week or longer because I overdid and then I wasn't able to follow up on that. And then it's like starting all over again. I mean, not exactly, but it's you're it's really a setback. So you can jump in with both feet, but do it carefully and do it under the guidance of someone who can give you good direction, so that you don't overdo.
that's another really good point. I did have a couple of times where I overdid it and it was really hard to take care of Lance. They were both leg days. uh, well, I hope that this is helpful and I hope that it gets some people out. Just get out into nature, go for a walk. That is great exercise. And it's such a great reset too. It helps your mindset. It helps make things a little bit more bearable when life is challenging. So thanks for joining me, Jenna, and I will see you next time.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you. Bye.